I'd like to show you in this tutorial how we can make these wonderful bow front cards. And in this particular one, I'm working from the CD-ROM, which is Woodland Wildlife, but the principle works for all of the cards in the range that we've got here. To make the card, I've printed out the elements that I need from the CD. In this instance, it was the Woodland Wildlife bow front cards, but all of the bow front cards work in the same way. Now I've printed out my image here, and this is on just regular paper. It doesn't have to be that thick, and that's going to go onto the back of the card, and I'll show you that in a moment. The panel here, which is the part that bows, I've printed out on 250 GSM card. Now you could go slightly thinner if you wanted to on this particular part, but I'm assuming you've probably got a whole stash like me of 250 GSM, so that's really what I've used for all of the construction here. So we're going to print that one out, and then this one, this has everything else on it, so it's not too complicated to make. It's pretty well got everything on here. This one's all in white. Now that really depends how you want to make it, and you could actually overprint on some of these sections if you wanted to with the paper from the backing paper section of the CD-ROM. But here we can see the instructions where to glue are all on here. Now as an alternative to the back, we've got this one, but you will need to print this sheet out anyway because we've got our two sections here that form the top and the bottom of the box and just make it look lovely. And again, this, as I said, is from the Woodland Wildlife. The others in the series will be slightly different for you, but the making up is identical. And on this one, basically we're going to use this. We definitely need the little tabs. If you're working on the white paper, you may want to just use these to pop on to where this is on here. Now on this section on the CD, this is text editable. So you could change the colour, the size of the text, or just get rid of it altogether and write a greetings message on it. And the small little dot, which is where they hold to open the card, appears on there. Now, the only downside of this is that the instructions of where to glue would be on the other side, and of course we printed single-sided. So I would tend to work with both of these panels just to get your bearings, and I'll show you that in a moment, because what I'm going to do is make this card up with the back panel with this coloured one here, because that's probably trickier than just simply sticking it down onto there. I say trickier, you've just got to remember to flip it over. So I'll show you that, but if you wanted to make the card all in white on the back, then go ahead and use that. But that's all our bases covered. So what we're going to do now is simply go ahead and just cut everything out. It's pretty square cuts. Let me just talk you through each one as we go. I'll start off with this one. Again, just cut all of the outline out here, and there's a circle within here. We want to cut this out. Now, unusually with cutting, I'm going to tell you not to cut too accurately. Cut into the wood a little bit. Slightly jaggedy would look nice as well. Or just cut as you normally would if you're not a great cutter. So that is the beauty of that. What we're trying to do is just avoid any of the white coming back in. So we're just going to cut to that side of the line. Slightly roughened look would look a little bit more closer to nature. And we have two score lines down here for you to score, which are right where the colour goes, and that's where you're going to glue. And last but not least, we have this little red box here, and this is going to form a tab for the back of the card to slot into when it's all made, so it doesn't keep flopping out. It's a little optional extra, but it's worth popping on. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So what you're going to do with this is just cut out on the red only, so 1, 2, 3 sides on there, and that part must stay attached because it's actually going to slot into there, and that will form the edge of the card. So that's what we're going to do there. Our next one to cut out is here, and again this has all been on 250 GSM card, are the two parts that make up the back of the card here, so we can cut that all out in one section there and then just slice down the centre red line. This is to save you card, so it all comes out of one piece. And then down here is the panel that we use, the little tab that will pull the card open. And I'll just run through really from left to right here. This is where you're going to glue. So that shows you, and that will match up with, I'll just bring this one back in. We can see that's going to match here. Gluing tab there, that's going to match to here. And we have this, which is the little tab that cuts out. It's almost like a belt that cuts out, belt loop, partial belt loop, and this tab slots in underneath. It just keeps the whole thing nicely together, but locks in the tab mechanism. And again, that's just a very simple cut lines. 3 cuts there on the red. You don't cut there. Last but not least, we've got glue tab here, and that's this part of the panel here. And there is a crease line, and we're going to make that nice and crisp, because that will fold over, and that will help the recipient who's making the card. It will just be easier to flop it over and the whole thing will lock in. Now, as I mentioned, we will have to print this one out as well. And we're going to use the 2 end panels here. They form the top and the bottom of our bowed front card. We've got a simple outline here. Try and get that as accurate as you can, but again, in truth, it doesn't matter too much. I know people sometimes struggle with curves. Just get it near enough if you can. It just neatens the box nicely, but it's quite forgiving. When it's made up, it will kind of hug the contours a little bit. And you've got what I call a little bit of wiggle room here if you want to just come within the black line there. 2 tabs here. These are the gluing tabs, which will be attached to here, and I'll show you that as we go ahead. And that's there for when they make the box up. The recipient who receives your lovely card can actually just glue it so it stays into position. These tabs stay there. And if it's being manhandled, which I suspect everyone will want to have a look, it won't just sort of come apart, and it just makes it a little bit stronger. It's an optional extra. And on the making instructions for the person receiving it, they actually say you don't have to glue this tab down if you don't want to. If you're going to take the card down, flatten it, and then perhaps put it up at a future date, then just simply leave the tabs there. They'll sort of serve a purpose of locking it all together. Again, we'll have a look at that as we make the card. Now, you will see that these come with what we call making instructions. Let me just grab that, which are here. This is for the person when you've made the card, when they receive it. It just shows them how to pop it all together. And it is really quite straightforward. We can see the gluing tabs here. And as again, it just mentions you don't have to actually glue it if you don't want to. But importantly, there's sorry, I meant to show you here. The main thing is this dot here, because that's what we're telling them to hold on to and then pull this tab with the other hand. So if you're going back to the original, you'll need to just pop a dot in. You could even colour it by hand, and that will appear here, or you can cut one of these out if you want to. It's just a little bit like a wooden knot, and stick it on. Now, if you want to have the back coloured, as I said, we can use this panel here, and on this one, we've got the opportunity of using the text editability within the CD-ROM if you want to, or you can just delete it all and hand write stuff in, or use your dies to cut in and put greetings message and a handwritten one there. So the only wee problem with this one is the fact that the gluing instructions don't appear on it because they're on this one here, and it would be on the reverse. So actually the glue tab will be down there, but you don't actually glue the front of this card. It's the back part there where it joins. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how we do that, because we're really just popping 3 bits together in this tab. It's actually a very, very simple card to make. So that's really the basics of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I'm going to go on now and just cut everything out. Then we're going to come back and I'll show you how we very simply assemble this all together to make this lovely card. So here in all its glory are the parts that I've cut out, and I think what we'll do now is just simply go for the making, as it were. And I'm going to start with a bit of glue on that one, this one here. And again, I'm going to just show you how we cut this one out. Now, what I'm going to do is just use my craft knife here. You could use scissors, cut in and just come close to the line there. Weave in a little bit, but this is one of those instances we're not cutting straight, you know, it's hard to, all that training to cut perfect lines going out the window here. You can see what I'm doing, it's just weaving a little bit, almost straight lines coming around. No right or wrong, but what we're trying to aim to is get rid of any of what was showing in there. And there we go, so that's our middle part there. And I think that looks quite good. One of the few times you can pat yourself on the back when it's not perfect, because you don't want it to be. So there we go, that's that part there. And you'll notice there's a little red line on here. I meant to save that. If I just come back to the main instruction sheet here, missed that one out, you'll notice a red cut line here. This is where the tab is going to go through, and I've cut that out. And I've not just done a single cut, I've made just a tiny slither out of there, and it sits right on the fold line, which I've gone ahead and scored this and folded because the tab has to come through. Remember, this is going to be glued, but we want that to then slide out and through the back there. So possibly not the neatest of cuts, but it just makes it a little bit easier. But look, a single cut there will be enough to allow the tab, which is this one, to slide through anyway. And in fact, you could argue that a single line might be better because that will help grip it a little bit more. So whatever you want to do with that one, but you must get the cut line in. And I just wanted to come back to this one here. That needs to be cut, and I'm going to use my craft knife here because it's probably the best way of getting in there. And I'm just going to come down there. In fact, I'm going to hand do this one into there and along here. And then just make sure that that's free to pop up. You need to just work into there. There we go. So pulling that up will remind us not to glue that tab. Now we've got our other two panels, again, all cut out. That one's just a simple square, nice and simple to do. And this one, again, has just these lines here. And I'm just going to simply cut in down there, and just flip that one along like so. And what we're going to do is just again make sure that that can pop up, which it does, and just leave it like that, so we don't really want to put a crease or anything into that. Now, as I mentioned, that's our glue tab there, and this is all going to come together in a moment. And before I do that, let me just show you the alternative, which is this one here. So these, when you make your first card, it's always sort of a bit of a learning curve. So what might be a good idea, if you want to work with the back panel on this one, and it does look nice, is just simply cut this other one out, and you'll see they kind of match each other. So when it comes to the gluing, you can then pop this one here like so, and use that as the template. And remember that the glue will be down there, but actually you can glue onto the other side, so it won't matter, but that's the bit that will stick down. Again, all will be revealed in a moment's time. So we'll come back to that, but I'll pop those two together because it just reminds you where it goes. So those three sections, and we're nearly there, ready to make it. Last but not least, I've cut these out and they've been folded, but one of these is going to come upright that forms the base of the box. So as you look into the card, and one will become the top of the card. So it'll go that away as we look down on it. And again, I'll remind you on that. That's my tab. And here are the little tabs, and I've gone ahead and cut those out. You'll see there's 4 on there. You're only going to use 2, and that's because I guarantee you'll lose one. And I think I just have, but I've just seen it. And here we're going to glue one part on the card, which is going to go on here. And then we're going to pop a little bit of tape on there, double-sided tape. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. A little bit of double-sided tape is needed for this. I'm just going to cut a small section off. It's just gone flying over there. I think that's the sticky bit. And just stick that onto there like so. So this can be used if they want to glue the card. And again, that was all on the instructions for the people making it again. God, I nearly jumped right into position. That would have been great, wouldn't it? Pop that onto there. sticky old stuff this. Now I've used the coloured one because it's a little bit more obvious that I think that it's there for them to see. So they are going to glue onto here, and basically with the one that goes down, then it will glue that away there. And we can probably go ahead now and I'll do that one while we're talking about it. So we're looking roughly for the centre of the card there, and a little bit of glue now onto here. Now I'm using wet glue for everything that we do here because you do need a nice strong glue. And so that's going to go down like so, just within the corner of the card there. There's no right or wrong, but basically why we do these separately is because we've now got still that nice curve on the card there. So I'm trying to let this glue for a second. I'm going to pull it back. And just so you can see, it's showing up there, we've got a little bit of a gap. That means we're not pushing this out when we make the curve, and that's going to now glue on itself. I wouldn't suggest, I'm doing this to show you. The glue's that good. There we go. Release. And then that will just come forward and just act as the tab to glue it. So what we're going to do is follow this. If this is going to be the part coming down, we have the tab coming down. It follows, it mirrors that part there. And because we've got a tab coming up here, this will be the base of the box looking down. Again, we'll glue from the back, but the tab will go that way. And remember, so if I just pop that on there, bring my tab here, we want this to glue on the side of the box. So as that comes down there like that, it will stick up and glue there. So we're going to glue this one that away. Now, if you want, you can come back and do this when you've made the box. If you think it makes more sense, I'm just doing this now because we had it out, and I'll show you when I make it how we, the stage you'll see when you could come back and do this. But I'm just showing you how we attach these now. And again, I'm just pulling that back slightly, shows up on the camera there, just so we can see a little tiny bit of a gap. So when it's open, it's not affecting that. And we'll pop that to one side. We're now ready to start assembling the cards. So let's bring out the main part here, and we'll pop that down with our cut line, little slot into there on the left, and with the tab here to our right. And I'm going to use this panel here, and this one will glue with this card going on top, like so. So we're avoiding that part there, put our glue onto there, and then this can slide over. Now at this stage, what we want to do is just get that sitting on there. I find it easier, so we'll just turn that over like so, just to pop it on, and you can see the line that you're gluing to there. And you can actually pull this piece up and just slot it in like so. Gently, that's the nice thing with the wet glue, you can let that move into position. There we go, and that's all glued in, a bit of pressure to hold it. And then at this stage, just make sure we haven't caught it. Try not to bend that too far back because we want that to act as a little latch. That opens and that's all glued there and ready to go. Now we can put our tab on, and you can see where it says glue tab here. I've used the one with the wooden texture, and that's going to go down that away like so, because that's going to fold backwards on the card like that. So what I'm going to do is pop a little bit of glue on here, and again a good strong wet glue. I'm using my trusty 5-star premium glue, and then just pop that over there like so, and just fold it. And what we're trying to do is just make sure that fold line comes a little bit beyond the crease there, because that's going to be like a locking mechanism when it's on the card. Let me just zoom in and show you that here. if you can see, it just comes out by a little bit there. So we're ready with our next panel, and this one is going to go onto there. It's actually going to flip over like so for the gluing. So what we can do is then just flip the whole thing over. But while we're looking at that, we've got to remember that we've got this section to go on here. And if we mirror this back to back, so if we just hold that there, if we're trying to work out where we're gluing here, that one we're saying, oh, that glues over there like so. So then we know that this one is going to go onto there, just like that, and line up. Basically, if you're unsure, we've got a dot here, and this part that we cut out here is closest to that line there. Now on this one, if you're doing it with the white, you're going to glue that, and this one sits on top of this panel here. So that one, this was underneath. On that side, this one sits on top. So a little bit of glue, and it's probably as easy now for me just to pop my glue on and stick that up onto the line. Again, wet glue. You could use your tape, double-sided. It really is up to you, but this allows you, my famous phrase, the wiggle room. I love it. A little bit of wiggle room on there. And we're just going to come up like so. Now, that little line that we've got there will come actually just the other side when we come to glue it. And I'll show you. We may have to come back in, but once we've cut it, we'll see it. And I'm just going to line this up. Whoops, I'll just do it a little bit more neatly there, up to that line there. So we're looking for the white line. And this is where the wet glue's great. You can see I'm just going to slide that up, just cover that line there, and then you can just flip it over if you want to. And again, we can see what's happening here, and just a little bit of pressure and let that glue. We're ready to pop the whole box together, and it's very nearly done, and we're going to put these ones on here, and they go onto the section with the tab, and they go on the inside part of it. So if I pop that over there, and we've got what we call the top and the bottom. This is the top. The top is that bit that's open on there, and obviously you'll know it's the top because you've got happy birthday written there. Now the top one is going to sit like so, so when we look down on the box we can see it there, and the bottom one comes there. So at this stage, let's just bring that into the centre. We just need to glue this part here. And I again will use my trusty glue, a wet glue here. And make sure it comes close to that leading edge as well. This one's going to be under a little bit of pressure when it's made. And no right or wrong, but what I'm going to do, so I'll get the lighting right for you there, is just bring that up to the card there, like so, and then just pop it down like that, and then bring it back and just check that everything lines up towards the top, like so. Make sure I'm happy with that, and I am. And so the top of the card, we're looking down, we see that bit. And now this is this is the tricky one. It's not tricky, this is the one that is so easy to get wrong. Now for the bottom one, we're looking in through the hole, so we want to see that as the base. So that's why it goes that way. And you'll notice our little tabs here, they're all in the right position. So again, a bit of glue, but on this one, on the white side, as it were, not on the printed part. I say a little bit of glue, I'm putting quite a bit on there. And in truth, I think if I just show you here, I'm just going to slide this into position like so. Just line it up with the top there and put a little bit of pressure on and just let that grab. It's fine. There we go. That's to stick there. And so that's what we've got here, and we're nearly there. The back panel's going to go on. I just wanted to show you just something which, in case you worry, that's where our tab cuts out and there's no glue, so it rises slightly there, but you'll never see that on the card. Now, our next part to pop in is the image. This is actually the last thing to go in. You can choose these from any one of the animals that you want to do. And what I'll do is you cut it out first of all and then get it to fit, as it were. So if I just pop this here now, you'll see that that's just slightly too long. So I need to just trim a little bit off. And each one of these will be ever so slightly different. Now I've got a little bit more room at the top, so I'll take a slither off there. You don't have to be too accurate because, as again, looking into the box, it's not always obvious where everything is. So again, I'll just slide that. You may have to do one or two. You could measure it and be more precise, or just mark it off with a pencil. And again, I'm not quite there, so I'm just going to mark that and just come back here and again take a slither off. Now, I always find each one's slightly different. So there's a little bit of extra on here because sometimes it'll fit perfectly, other times it won't. This is the bespoke part where you're making this fit the card. Let me show you why we're adding a little bit of extra space in there. Now that feels like it's fitting, but these have to fold in. You can see the bowing, it's not quite right. So again, a little bit more off, slither at a time. Don't rush this stage. I'm trying to be too precise here, sort of a couple of mil shorter. Shorter is better than too big. See, look, even if you've got a little bit down there, it won't notice. And then we want to make sure that fits there. So that's now good. And it's a little bit sticky, this one. Put some double-sided on it. And again, we want to measure to make sure that it fits in here. So that one to there. And I can see that's sticking out a little bit here. And now we've got the height right. And now I'm just going to pop this on here like so. Pull that into the crease there like that. And I can see, look, I'm that much over. So I could we're trying to get this centre, so I could slice that bit off there. There's always a little bit of wiggle room. Oops, I'm just going to move that out the way. So let's just take, I'm going to take a little bit off of each side. There we go. I think less is more. That will fit in there. And there we go. So a little bit of wet glue on that. And this covers all the mechanisms here. Now, you might question, well, why have we got that inside? And I'll tell you, the engineering of making in this and the maths nearly did my head in. A very thin slither of glue. You could use, it doesn't necessarily have to be wet glue, but I've decided that will allow me just time to wiggle everything into position. Top and bottom are very important, lining up with that edge and making sure that that can fold. Everything does, because we spent so long measuring and cutting it. There we go. Yeah, as I said, you could measure into there. And it really is, I'm being very pedantic here. It's just my nature when it comes to making stuff like this. Look, the line is a little bit out there, but I want it to be like that. And on the top, there's a little bit of a line there. No one will ever see that. And we're pretty much up to the edge there. It is better, sorry, I'm going to say it one last time, it's better that it fits slightly smaller than being too big, because we've got to be able to fold that to there like that. This is what we call the acid test, and that must be able to fold over without too much pressure on it. Okay, and we are there. It's done. It's all done. So, your last part is just to assemble this ready for the lucky person to receive their card. And at this point, we're just going to fold those two flaps in, and this will come over, and we're going to just slot this through the hole here, and that sits like so. And that's how they're going to receive it in the post. And then they're going to assemble it. Now, you're going to have a go at assembling it just to make sure everything's okay. But before we go to that stage, well, we've got it here. There we go. That fits into our A5 envelope there. So that's what you'll be posting it to them. And they will also get the instructions showing them how to pop it together. Like so. That will go in with it. Because we know they'll struggle a wee bit. Okay, so before you do that, you want to make sure that it works. So we're going to follow these instructions, but I'm just going to tell you here. So we hold that and we pull the tab. That goes in under there, and then that one slots in if you want it to. Whoops, just into there like so. And that keeps it all upright and nice. And that's our card there. Then their instructions, and I'll show you here, is to pop this down and then just push that down onto a flat surface so it doesn't go beyond. And if they want to, they will have taken off the red tape. Don't you do that, because you'll never close it. So you can see now we get this lovely fitment there. And again, they're told to do this on their instructions. We're just checking it works, and that just lines up there. And at this point, that little tab would be used just to glue it into position. And if I pop that over, we can see that lines up nice and evenly there along the top. There we go, pop that in there, and that's our card, our lovely bow-shaped card there. Now it can create a slight crease, but then you'll hear that just click like so. When they've made it, this will just be a little bit more rounded. Now, a handy hint here, if you've got the time, I make this card up and leave it bow-shaped like this for a couple of days, a day or two. It sounds like we're maturing wine, doesn't it? But it kind of retains a shape. So when they come to make it, I've had them, and I kid you not, literally almost pop out on me. They almost make themselves once that bow is there. But we've got to disassemble this now. So I'm going to pull that slightly out here. And then remember, we're going to tuck those in there underneath with our tabs. And just pop that back through there like so. We know it works. And that is your lovely card ready to send off with the instructions and your lovely greetings that you can type on here on the program, or write or decorate the back of the card if you want to as well. So here is our finished card. And I said, it's quite straightforward to make. I think I'm sometimes a bit long-winded in my instructions to show you, but I also want to cover everything. As I said, nice and simple to make. You can change the background in there. You've got lots on the CD. This one's off of Woodland Wildlife, but it's the same for the rest of the range. They'll all make up in the identical way. And obviously the instructions that come with it will still be applicable to each one. So it really is, as I said, it's a lovely card to receive, because it looks so special, and the imagery, I hope you agree, is really nice, and the whole thing comes together. It's a fantastic card. It looks great from every angle. So you can see now we've got the top part there, our wooden panel. If I just hold that there, we can now see we've got our base wood on the bottom there as well. So nice and simple to make, no real surprises with this, and I think you'd agree it does look really lovely. I hope this has inspired you to have a go, enjoy your crafting, and have fun making these lovely bow-fronted cards.